a stand, take a stand. Everybody, everybody, come take my hand, come take my hand. We'll walk this road together through the storm, whatever weather, cold or warm. Just letting you know that you're not alone.
You're listening to America Off the Rails with Double R, right here on the Common Ground Media Network.
Alright folks, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you might be. I am Double R, also known as Rowdy Ricky Robinson, and this is America Off the Rails. It is Saturday, June 28th. We do have a lot on tap today, but I'm going to do something a little bit different, because I've been getting, and actually I do have a little bit of that to talk about today, I've been getting some emails. I even apparently have a guy stalking me now on Twitter who seems to think that I'm an Obama hater. But one of the things that I've decided I'm going to start doing is at least once a month, I'm going to do something to try to help make sure that I'm helping to make a difference. Some of you, from the emails that I've gotten, and from the guy who thinks that I'm an Obama hater, I'm starting to think there are things that maybe you are not aware of about our country. So one of the things that I was able to find that I've used on other shows before is someone reading the Declaration of Independence. It's going to take about 10 minutes, but I feel it's kind of important. So we're going to go ahead and play that in its entirety. So for those of you who are sending me nasty emails and making lame comments about me on Twitter, first of all, bring it on. I really don't care. I'm a very sarcastic individual, so eventually at some point I will quit being nice if you keep being mean to me, but I don't necessarily have a problem with you giving me your opinion. Just don't be surprised if when I give you mine back you don't like it nearly as much, because I usually make people run away crying. You can ask a few people that I used to work with who thought it was always fun to try to give me a hard time until they realized I was really good at verbal judo. Hey, it's why I do talk shows, for fun. Anyway, so do have a lot on tap today. Not sure if we're going to be able to get to all of it, but again, I do want to start the show a little bit differently. This will probably be something I will find a way to do at least once every couple of months, if not once a month. Basically finding snippets about the important founding documents of our country, since some of you seem to need to be reacquainted with them. So I'm going to go ahead and play this in its entirety, and we will be right back.
In Congress, July 4th, 1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such forms as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial, from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince, whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant, is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attention to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
You're listening to America Off the Rails with Double R right here on the all-new K98 Talk.
Alright, and we are back. Now, there's a lot of information in there, and I'm not going to crowd you with it all at once today, but I want to focus on one particular line. Only because it's the one that, I don't know, always seems to give me goosebumps. Maybe I'm the crazy one. According to, like I said, some guy from Twitter, I'm definitely the crazy one. But we pledge our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor. Do people even think that way anymore? I mean, let's just stop and think about just that one sentence just for a second. Do people even really think that way anymore? I have to tell you that I still do. That's why all of this has started. Those of you who've listened before, you know some of this. This all started as a Facebook page. I got tired of feeling like nobody was listening, and I saw all these political Facebook pages, and I was like, but they're really just showing pictures and getting people riled up, and I really thought that we could do more than that. Sadly, the ones that do that are the ones that seem to have tens and thousands of followers and Twitter accounts blowing up and everything else. But you know what? I don't do this for the numbers. I do this for emails like the one that I'm about to share with you in a minute. And I do this because as I've learned to do this, I've started making contacts through social media from folks that actually do terrestrial radio. I mean, we've talked so much now that there's someone who does morning radio here in my area that I honestly almost consider him a friend. I'm sure he probably doesn't quite feel the same way because we only talk on Facebook and I've never met him in person. But Sometimes when we're both up late and getting things ready and I'm doing editing or whatever, I'll have Facebook open and I'll see he has a light on and we'll start talking. And I've kind of almost felt like I'm starting to get to know him a little bit. So, I mean, I almost kind of consider him a friend. I'm not sure if he would. But we had an interesting conversation the other day, and I told him that as that conversation developed, I was probably going to use some of it on the show. Because one of the things that we had talked about was the fact that both of us are pretty much disillusioned with the Republican Party anymore. And it's tied into that one sentence that we just talked about, because nobody thinks that way anymore. Nobody does that anymore. No matter what they tell you, no matter what kind of lip service they give you, they're really basically only looking out for one thing. How can I have my power? How can I keep my power? But how can I make you think that I'm still a good guy while I'm getting to keep my power? We see this time and time and time again in our government, over and over and over. You see the ones that aren't in power, like the whole time that the Democrats were the little guys, and they didn't have power in the House, the Senate, or the White House. Anytime the Republicans talked about, well, hey, we're going to do this because we can't get anything done with you guys. Well, if you do that, I'm talking about the nuclear option. Well, if you do that, you're basically cheating the American people, because you're going to make it impossible for anyone to ever stop anything that you want to have done. So the whole time they're complaining about it, when they get into power, what do? They limit things, they change the rules, the same rules that they were complaining because the Republicans wanted to change, who ultimately didn't change them. They were the ones who changed them. And again, why did they do that? Because right now, they have all the power. Sadly, our government has gone from by the people, of the people, for the people, to he who holds the power makes all the rules. And it's not just our government, folks. That's the scary thing. If you really take the time to stop and think about it, we are being attacked on so many different levels now. We have corporate folks that are trying to make sure that they can consolidate their power base and hang on to those little coins that they have in their pocket. So they find ways to lobby for things that they need to make sure that things that they need to get done, and we're left out in the cold. We have government folks who run for office and say, hey, vote for me and I'll make changes, until you vote for them. So again, I ask you, what happened to pledging lives, fortunes, and sacred honor? Nobody risks everything anymore to make a difference. I can't even legitimately say that I'm doing that, because I have to tell you, with as much as I enjoy doing this, if I had the possibility, I would throw every second of every day into it, if I could. But I have a family to raise. So I have responsibilities. So I have a 40-hour work week on top of trying to do all of this. And it may not seem like much from the outside, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into something like this, even on an hour-long show on one platform and a 2-hour show on the other. Not only that, but I also help with other shows that started around the same time that all of mine did, and I do also help promote other folks who I've met along the way when I can. So I mean, I'm always doing something to try to help people along the way, and I'm not saying that to bang my own chest or anything else. Mainly saying that to answer a question, because before I go into the conversation that a friend and I had on Facebook the other night, I did want to share an email. This is from Jonathan from Yuma, Arizona. Dear Double R, I've been listening to your show for a while now, and I'm curious, because it seems that you seem to think you know what you're talking about. And this is where it gets interesting, by the way. And then he goes on to say, I've been listening to you for a while, and honestly, I'm not sure you know what the hell you're talking about. Okay, well, let's stop right there, because first of all, Jonathan, I never claimed that I knew everything, or sometimes that even I knew what I was talking about. What I do try to do is bring you the truth in any way that I can find it. But then he continues to go on and says, I've heard you over and over again bashing the president, bashing Congress, bashing pretty much everybody that you feel needs to be bashing. But what would you suggest that we do differently? Okay, going to stop right there. This actually isn't a very long email, so there's only a couple more sentences. So what would I suggest that we do differently? Wait, Jonathan, didn't you say you've been listening to the show? Because I've done this on both shows several times. That's okay, though, because I'll go ahead and answer your questions anyway. So first thing I would do, if I had the ability, is I would make sure that there were term limits for every federal office. Anything that requires that you run for election should have a term limit, period. As a combination, whether it be Congress or Senate, no one should be allowed to run for more than 8 years. That means if you want to do one term in the House and then one term in the Senate, great. You even want to do 4 terms in the House. You know what? I'm kind of okay with that too, because that still limits it to the same amount of time that the president gets in office. We already have term limits on the president. That's great too. I also don't feel that Supreme Court justices should be appointed. We're giving way too much power to the representatives. Supreme Court justices should have to face elections just like everyone else. I don't care if the House and the Senate want to narrow down the choices by committee first, but once they make a choice down to 2 or 3, the American people should get the final say. Because then you can't say, well, the only reason these people are getting elected is because the people that I don't like that are in power getting appointed is because the people that I don't like are the ones that are in power. You know what? If we're going to watch the country burn anyway, we might as well give more of the power back to the people. Because that's pretty much what we're doing right now, Jonathan, is we're watching the country burn and nobody's wanting to do anything about it. Am I saying I have all the answers? No, but what I am saying is I'm tired of sitting on the sidelines, and that's what I'm saying to each and every one of you who can hear my voice today. Get your butts off the sidelines. I don't care if you're in Yuma, Arizona. I don't care if you're in Houston, Texas. I don't care if you're in frickin' Nicaragua. If you're an American citizen, there are ways that you can be involved. And you need to find them. So, Jonathan, I have a question for you, and feel free to reply, and then I will continue on with the rest of my discussions of the things that I would do differently. What are you doing, other than sitting here writing me an email bashing me because I'm trying to use my talents to make a difference? What exactly is it that you're doing? Show me what you do with your weekend time. Show me what you do with your nighttime hours. You're probably sitting in your mama's basement right now eating Cheetos. I mean, come on. Why is it the natural instinct of everyone to attack? I've been doing these shows for months. This is the first time I've read an email. Most of them are not very nice. Do I take them to heart? No. Do I get frustrated? No, because I see the good ones too. I get emails from folks all the time that are saying, hey, thanks to you, I finally got inspired enough that I'm in my local area trying to see if I can make a difference. I found a campaign that I agree with, and I'm out handing out flyers or doing this or doing that. You know what? I don't even care if you're on opposite sides of the spectrum from me. If you're getting involved, that's all I care about. The thing that none of us seem to remember is Republican, Democrat, Independent, Liberal, whatever you want to call yourselves. We have more in common with each other than we have with these bozos that are in D.C. right now. But we're so busy picking up their banner, trying to kill each other, bash each other over the head with a red, blue, green, white color from the banner that we're holding up, that we don't pay attention to the fact that anymore that these are our neighbors. These are our friends. These are people that we know. I have people that I disagree with on a daily basis, and I disagree with them passionately. But they are still my friends. And still, when it comes right down to it, I have more in common with them than I do these idiots in D.C. that are giving us all our marching orders. So back to what I would do differently. This one I borrowed from my buddy Dave. If it were up to me, or if I was president for a day, the next thing I would do was order a full and complete review of our budget, line by line, item by item. And anywhere I saw a $50,000 hammer, a $30,000 toilet seat, I would say, hey you, Secret Service guy, I'm going to be in this office for a while and there's 3 of your buddies right here. You see this list of all this crap that's going to cost us $30,000? Yeah, you, George, I'm talking to you, the guy over there with the glasses. Get your butt over here. Don't look at me like that, come here. Yeah, see this list right here? Yeah, all this $30,000, $40,000 for a screwdriver, $30,000 for a toilet seat, $50,000 for a hammer. Hey, here's $50. Go to Home Depot. Come back with the shit on this list. Works for me. Line by line, item by item. Go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Find out where we're wasting money. Find out where it's going to. If it's going to a black project, you know what? I don't care what you think the black project needs to be. The American people are your bosses. I don't care if you're using the money to prove that there's life on Alpha Centauri. If you honestly think we need to be spending billions of dollars because there's life on Alpha Centauri, then the American public need to know that we're spending billions of dollars because you think there's life on Alpha Centauri. Or because you think we need the bigger, badder stealth plane than the one that we have already. It's called accountability. It's called transparency. It's all the crap that this guy told us he was going to do that he didn't do. I bought into the speech. I bought into the hype the night of his first election, when he stood in front of everyone and said, I'm going to be the most open and honest president you've ever seen. I'm going to have the most transparent administration that you've ever seen. And I'm going to reach across the aisle like no one else has before me. He didn't bother to tell you that he was going to reach across the aisle just so he could backhand the people that he was reaching to. I mean, seriously, come on. I have some other stuff that I want to play here. This seems like as good a time as any. This is how our president feels, and this is how he talks to students when he goes to speak at their graduation ceremonies and the like.
We, the people, chose to do these things together because we know this country cannot accomplish great things if we pursue nothing greater than our own individual ambition. Unfortunately, you've grown up hearing voices that incessantly warn of government as nothing more than some separate, sinister entity that's at the root of all our problems. Some of these same voices also do their best to gum up the works. They'll warn that tyranny is always lurking just around the corner. You should reject these voices, because what they suggest is that our brave and creative and unique experiment in self-rule is somehow just a sham with which we can't be trusted. We have never been a people who place all of our faith in government to solve our problems. We shouldn't want to. But we don't think the government is the source of all our problems either, because we understand that this democracy is ours. And as citizens, we understand that it's not about what America can do for us, it's about what can be done by us together through the hard and frustrating but absolutely necessary work of self-government. And class of 2013, you have to be involved in that process.
Alright, so there you have it. The President of the United States basically telling people to ignore people that think of government as the enemy. I have to tell you, folks, if you listen to the Declaration of Independence, or read the Declaration of Independence, or any of the other writings by our founding fathers, they viewed government as the enemy. Why did they view government as the enemy? Because they had seen it in their own country, which is why they left. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. We have gotten to the point in this country where we basically have a continuation of monarchy, whether we want to admit it or not, because the same people and the same families are in D.C. over and over and over again, and it goes from father to son to uncle to cousin. They all basically have the same ideas, none of which are good. That's like right now, if you listen to the media, they want a Clinton-Bush runoff again. I'm so sick of hearing about both of those families in the news trying to talk about how they deserve to be our president still. I don't want dynasties in this country. That's what we were trying to get away from. And I'm sorry, Jeb, as long as you feel like illegal immigration is an act of love, I have nothing else to say to you. I have people in my family who have chosen to do this the right way. They've stood in line. They've taken the test. They did everything they were supposed to do. So don't tell me that because it's too hard to come into this country, that we should just let everybody in. I mean, really. Have we so much become the society of microwave dinners and hour-long TV shows that we expect everything to be resolved in 5 minutes or less, or within an hour time span of a TV show? So, Jonathan, for the most part, that's about all the time I'm going to give you today. Thanks for the email. I don't mind people writing into me even when they disagree with me. But can we maybe do it on a less of an attack level at this point? Because I got to tell you, I try not to be the guy that lashes out and attacks people. But if you're going to attack me first, you're going to get what you deserve. So do me a favor. Either next time you decide to start banging on your keyboard, be a little more respectful in the correspondence that you send me, or do everyone a favor and make sure you wash the Cheeto stuff off your hands next time before your mom walks downstairs and wonders why there's Cheeto stains on your underwear. You have a good day, sir. Okay, so anyway, where were we? Oh yeah. Speaking of scandals and, nefarious government, and, we should ignore all that. That's really good coming from this guy. Really good coming from this guy. This guy has had so many scandals, people are starting to make parody songs about it. Just saying. And actually, I'm going to play one just because I really, really like it. And I'm a little hyper right now. And a little in attack mode, so we're going to take a second to calm down.
I'm President Barack Obama, and I approve this parody song. Good job, NSA. Now nobody likes me at all. You couldn't keep it to yourself that you were spying on phone calls. No one thinks healthcare will work. Looks like I'm the one to blame, because the IRS targeted groups that have conservative names. Man, it seems to me each day I find another scandal in the wind. Never knowing when snooping on journalists will begin. Immigration reform and gun control have really hit the skids. I'm scared I'm doing a worse job than George W. ever did. Sheesh. This has been Barack Obama saying, you can trust me. No, you can't!
Okay, so it's not the best Obama impersonation, but come on, you gotta admit that's funny. And at this point, what are we gonna do? Laugh about all this crap or cry about it? I mean, look at this. From a logical perspective, the guy stands, I believe it was a commencement ceremony, and tells people to ignore the voices that talk about tyranny and government, while he's basically the head, whether he's orchestrating it or not. Pretty sure it's Valerie Jarrett. I don't think he's smart enough to do it. But still, whether he's orchestrating it or not, right now, this is the most tyrannical U.S. government I think I have ever seen. This guy makes Nixon look like a Girl Scout. And everybody's fine with it. I don't understand this. If this guy had an R behind his name, I don't care what color he is, they probably would have ran him out of the country by now. But since he's a Democrat, everybody's cool with it. Media still thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread. Well, mostly. Even the New York Times is finally like, okay, I don't think we can ignore this crap anymore. I mean, but over and over again, scandal after scandal after scandal, and everybody's like, And Obama's like, oh, these are made up. I wish I could find a clip that I heard on one of the other radio shows the other day when I was driving home from work. Yeah, I know you're thinking, dang, you do this stuff and you listen to other people too? I listen to all kinds of different folks. Used to listen to Rush Limbaugh. I don't really anymore because my work schedule's changed. I do occasionally listen to Glenn Beck. Most of the time in the morning, I catch a little bit of Rick Roberts on KTOK on the drive in, a little bit of Lee Matthews on the drive home. And then occasionally I'll flip over to 1520. Really, really like Jerry Doyle. Don't know if it's because he's used to be on one of my favorite science fiction shows when I was younger or not. Mr. Garibaldi, this is an outrage. Oh, sorry. Like I said, it's been an odd night. I've been a little frustrated because I got some idiot on Twitter telling me I'm an Obama hater, and then I get the email from Jonathan basically telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about and that I should shut my pie hole. That's okay, though, because I did get an email from Christopher in, I believe it was Houston, Texas, who did basically tell me that recently he had gotten involved because he had heard shows like mine and a few others and then realized that now's the time, and if anything's going to change, it's going to have to be changed by us. That's the message I've been trying to get across for months. Even when I have folks that, I'm going to say my staff, this is a company. We are forming a company. I've treated it like a business from day one. I have folks that have worked with me who haven't been, who shall remain nameless. But that's what I've been trying to explain to them from day one. I always, anytime I have an endeavor in mind, even if I think it's going to be something that I'm eventually going to try to turn into something that makes money, I treat it as if it's already making money from day one. I put time into it, effort into it, find ways to make it better. I'll even go back through and listen to the shows that I've already done. And most hosts don't do that because honestly, none of us can stand the sound of our own voices. And that's just human nature. We all sound differently inside when we're talking than we do when we hear it. And honestly, I was pretty self-conscious for a while about doing this, thanks to my wife, who was only trying to make a joke, but it honestly really did hurt my feelings. I had made the mistake of going back through and doing a replay of one of the shows while she was in the room, and she's like, "Oh my God, is that you?" And I said, "Yeah, it's me. Why?" She said, "You sound like Big Bird. I don't understand because you don't sound like that when you talk to me." I'm like, "You just told me I sound like Big Bird. I don't like you anymore." So yeah, I've been self-conscious about it for a while, kind of got over it, but the important thing is, folks, even if you think I don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine. I don't always know what I'm talking about. I'm here to bring stories to your attention and to give you my take on them and to tell you at some point during this show every week that if you don't like the direction our country is going in, you need to become involved. Plain and simple. You can't make a difference from your couch. You can't make a difference with an Xbox controller in your hand. You can have fun, which is what I tell my children. Fun is fine. Fun is great. Fun is awesome. But fun is not the end-all be-all. Yeah, it's really great when you find something that you like to do, like this, and you can have fun with it while you're doing it, but at the same time, sometimes you have to make sacrifices. That's what we learned from our founding fathers. They put everything on the line to build this nation, and we're watching it burn and doing absolutely nothing, while we hold on to our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Most of us don't even understand what the word sacred honor mean anymore. Honor's a fad word. Nobody lives by a code of honor anymore. Hang on. Let's listen to the opening of that clip that I just played a second ago one more time, because it caught me off guard. So this is the one where he's talking to the students again. Let's listen to the very beginning of that, because something he said kind of caught me off guard, and it kind of ties into exactly what I was just talking about.
We, the people, chose to do these things together because we know this country cannot accomplish great things if we pursue nothing greater than our own individual ambition.
Because we know this country cannot achieve great things if we do nothing but pursue our own individual ambition. But that's what 95% of this country do. What's in it for me? What am I going to get out of this? What's the quickest, cheapest, easiest way for me to make money? I don't care if I'm slinging dope on a corner. I have to admit, that's probably one of the few things that man has said that I agree with. We are not going to be able to make a difference if we're all pursuing our own what we perceive to be our best interest. That's the problem with DC. We have a group of 400 and some odd people that are all pursuing their own best interest and finding ways to make sure they consolidate their own power base, because they all have designs of their own. Each and every single one of those people that are in there for something. Some of them go in there for the right reasons, and then they get chewed up and spit out by the machine that is Washington, D.C. So again, I ask you, what happened to pledging lives, fortunes, and sacred honor? I've got no fortune. At some point, if I do, I'll throw it all in. But I'm telling you right now, this is where I am. I will not speak for anyone else. But this is why I do what I do. Because I honestly feel, at this point, this is a calling. If it works, great, fine. If I fail, you know what? I've already won, because at least I am trying to make a difference. And this goes back to what I opened the show with, which is a conversation that a friend of mine and I had on Facebook. So give me a second while I get that pulled up, just so I can kind of go over what we were talking about. Apparently this was a lot longer conversation than I thought. Bear with me for one moment. Okay, here we go. This is a conversation that a local radio show host and I had on Facebook the other night. And basically this is what I told him. That's one reason I've become so angry with the Republican Party. This is me and what I typed as a whole. So many of their big ticket terms are things that should be focused on in the home. You focus on keeping the country pointed in the right direction and out of the ditches. I can teach my family about God, abortion, and all of the above. And that's honestly how I feel at this point. Yes, I agree with all of those things. I do not think abortion is a right thing. But it's not my place to force my beliefs on anyone else. I do not personally believe in gay marriage. However, I'm not going to tell you that because you do, you shouldn't be able to get married. It's not my place to judge you. That all happens later if I'm right, and it has absolutely nothing to do with me. So all I'm saying at this point is we need to make our country and our government realize that their job as government as a whole is to keep the country pointed in the right direction and keep us out of the ditches. Stop sweating the small stuff. The things that you guys are focusing on and trying to rally your bases on are things that should be being focused on at the home. It's the same thing that we get ticked off about education and about the fact that they now want the teachers to basically be the parents, and they're teaching them Common Core stuff and changing the way that they learn everything because they have to, because they want them to not be able to be taught by their parents. I've seen it time and time again, over and over again, talking to parents who are in the middle of all this Common Core crap that are all of a sudden, even the teachers are saying, look, stop teaching them the way you used to do math. We can't have them do it that way anymore. Why do you think that is? I mean, at a government level, why do you think it should matter? Let me tell you why it matters. They're cutting off the parents as a resource. They're programming the children to be dependent on the state. That's why this stuff matters. That's why it's insidious. That's why you shouldn't be ignoring tyranny when you see it, regardless of what Mr. Obama says. That's why you shouldn't be turning a blind eye to all of these scandals. Because they are all indicative of the same problem. We have become a self-obsessed nation of people who don't give a crap about anything other than themselves and how to make themselves look better, feel better, how to make the most money. I mean, come on. Really? Hang on a second. Sorry, my host from the other show was like, "Good morning." I'm like, "Yeah, a little busy right now. Give me about 15 more minutes." So anyway, so yeah, I mean, some other things that we talked about that I think are kind of important, just to kind of give you my mindset, because we've made a couple of decisions here over the last few days. At for the Finding Common Ground show, we used to have a producer, so we haven't for a while. And by producer, I mean someone who helps put together the sound clips, kind of runs the soundboards, things like that. And so basically, I made a decision because it's summertime and I have teenage boys who are kind of expressing interest in this kind of thing. So I've been having them help me do the research and things like that. And I think, at least for the summer months, I may lay off once school starts, but at least for the summer months, starting not next weekend, because I'm not sure if we're going to do a show next weekend since it's the 4th, or the weekend of the 4th, but the weekend after, one of them will probably start running the soundboard for us, and I'm also beginning to start teaching them how to do the editing for the clips. So I guess one of the points that I'm trying to get across here is I've found ways to use my talents to try to make a difference. I'm using those talents to try to reach other people, and at the same time, I am finding ways to get to spend time with my sons, which is not something I've always been able to do, because I've been self-employed before, and I spent the majority of my 20s and 30s chasing contracts and making sure that food was on the table, so I haven't always been around all the time. So the three things that I feel make this all important, at least to me, is, again, one, I've found something that I like to do. I'm using what I feel are my talents to make a difference, according to some emails I'm receiving. Others disagree with me. And three, I'm finding ways to involve my children and get closer to them so I can help them understand exactly how I feel about not only the small things, but the bigger issues. So again, as we begin to wind down the show today, because I probably will take us out the same way I took us in, I want you to think about this. How can you get involved in your area? Heck, I don't care if you want to do a radio show or an online radio show. I run a whole network. If you think you can contribute, hit me up with an email. R@K98talk.com. I have a whole media network that I'm building around the concept of these shows. And we've already been picked up by one online station. I'm hoping eventually it will be more than one. But if you feel you can contribute, hit me up. If you want to make suggestions about show topics, hit me up. Like I said, you can find me through that email address. You can find me on Facebook at Rowdy Ricky Robinson. You can just type that in. It should pull right straight up. That's just one of the profile names that I have set up. You can find the show page at www.facebook.com/America Off the Rails, or America is Coming Off the Rails. You can find our Common Ground page at www.facebook.com/Common Ground. Political page. I mean, we're here because we're trying to find like-minded people. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Libertarians, I don't care. I want to talk to people that realize The same thing that we're slowly starting to realize as a small group. We have a lot more in common with each other than we have with these idiots that have been running our country for the last several decades, and I'm tired of the same people being there over and over and over again because nothing seems to matter. Nothing seems to change. All they want to do is consolidate their power. And yeah, that's 10 minutes long, so I probably won't put you guys through that again, but I do want to play one other clip here, just to kind of give you an idea of what it is that we're up against. And I'm probably going to get another email about being an Obama hater today, because all of the clips are pretty much centered around him, but
I think that we have been slow to move in a better direction when it comes to energy usage. And the president, frankly, hasn't had an energy policy. And as a consequence, we've been consuming energy as if it's infinite. We now know that our demand is badly outstripping supply, with China and India growing as rapidly as they are.
So could these high prices help us?
I think that I would have preferred a gradual adjustment. The fact that this is such a shock to American pocketbooks is not a good thing. But if we take some steps right now to help people make the adjustment, first of all by putting more money into their pockets, but also by encouraging the market to adapt to these new circumstances more quickly, particularly U.S. automakers.
okay, so I want you to notice something very important in there. This is from candidate Obama. As you could tell, he managed to make sure he slammed the president in there about not having any type of an energy policy. And this is talking about back during his initial campaign, when gas prices were getting to the point where, you started hearing it in the newspapers that by summer we were going to have $5 gas prices, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And then all of a sudden the bottom fell out on the gas prices again. And now we're back to almost $4 a gallon again. I want you to pay attention to one very important key sentence in there. I would have preferred this to be a gradual increase. Didn't say if I were president, I would find ways to get fuel prices lower again. Didn't say I would open up oil reserves that we haven't used, or oil areas for drilling that we haven't used in quite some time that we know have oil in them. Didn't say, hey, if I was president, I would find a way to make sure that this pipeline was done and done safely so that we can make certain that we were getting the oil that we needed so the American people weren't feeling the strain that is being brought on by these sudden shifts. No. What did he say? We need to find ways to help them adjust. We need to find ways to help them adjust. The bottom line point is, folks, the reason we are in the mess we are in right now, and this goes further back than the last 6 years, is because we have fallen asleep at the switch. Those of us who saw the turnaround in the 80s as we were children assumed it was going to stay that way forever. So we focused on making sure in the 90s that we got our piece of the pie. We were out chasing the almighty dollar. We were out doing whatever we needed to do. Some of us were out doing things that we shouldn't have been doing. But we weren't paying attention to the things that are important. And as a result, we now have this whole group of people in D.C. and in corporate America that are basically stripping your power slowly and steadily away from you. If we do not make changes now, soon it will be too late. This man is evidence of that. He is not the problem. He is a symptom of the problem. He is a product of the problem. He grew up being told that America sucks. There's a study out now that 62% of those that associate themselves with being liberal do not think America is the greatest country in the world. They are products of liberal, mainstream public education. We as Americans are made to hate ourselves on a daily basis for things that happened hundreds of years before we were born. Your ancestors ran off the Indians and slaughtered them. Your ancestors were slave owners. Okay, so what does that have to do with me? I've never had a slave. Unless you count my children. I'm just kidding. Actually, if one of my children was in the room right now, he'd probably be nodding vigorously. Yes, no, he's not kidding. Anyway. So again, I'm going to close the show pretty much the same way I do every Saturday morning. We will be back around this same time. Usually try to start sometime between 7:30 and 8. I promise at some point I will get this stuff situated well enough that we can actually have a set schedule for it. Do pretty good with that with the Finding Common Ground show, because normally by the time I finish this one, it takes a little bit of prep time to get over to that one, so that one pretty much always starts at 9:30. This one, however, occasionally fluctuates a little bit. Normally try to start at sometime between 7:30 and 8. It does usually run for about an hour, so we'll be back again. If not this next Saturday, because I haven't decided yet, then the following Saturday. And I am about to go change gears and finish getting set up for the next show that we do. So again, if you are within the sound of my voice, do anything you can today to help make a difference. I don't care if it's helping a little old lady with her groceries. I do have a story about that from a friend that I'm going to talk about on the next show here in just a few, so you may want to pop over about 9:30. Some of the stuff we've talked about will be talked about over there, as well as some other things that are going on. And but we will be we'll be back with you guys as soon as we can. And again, find a way to make a difference each and every day. If you wake up drawing breath, then you still have a chance. That's really just all there is to it. So even in the small ways, find a way to make a difference. Find a way to get involved in your area. Find a campaign you agree with. Get involved. Make phone calls. Pass out flyers. If you, like me, suddenly figure out, hey, this is something that I'm actually decent at and I enjoy doing it, and you've got ideas on a radio show, nothing else, pitch them to me. I'll help you get them put together and we'll broadcast them on our network. That's why this stuff is going on. I want to find ways to get more and more people involved and get more and more people's attention so that we can wake everybody up before it's too late. Anyway, folks, that will probably do it for today. You have a great Saturday. We'll be back. Actually, let's just plan on being back next week. I don't normally like going 2 weeks without a show. So if something changes, I'll put it up on the Facebook page for those of you that listen on a regular basis. But as of right now, I do plan on being back next week. I'll already have Friday off to go blow stuff up anyway, so Saturday should be showtime without a problem. I'll see you guys next week. God bless.
But tell them if I don't survive, I was born free. I was born free. I was born.
You are now tuned into the Bush Leagues of Talk Radio, right here on the all-new K98 Talk.
Screw you guys. I'm going home. Later.
Game over, man. It's game over.